Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mercules. I'm here today with Planet Destiny, and we're going to be bringing you a short video of some tips and tricks that newcomers to the Crucible can use before they even set foot in their first game to make sure that they're going into the PvP arena with all the advantages they need to succeed. The very first thing I want to talk about is picking an optimal control scheme for PvP. And basically, when you look at the default button scheme, you'll notice that the right click is player highlight. Now, the problem with that is in PvP, we want to be able to do as many of the vital actions as we need to be able to do without removing our fingers from the thumbsticks. If you remove your finger from the thumbstick, it means you either can't move or you can't aim. And you can see that with the default controls, you can't jump or crouch without removing your right finger from the thumbstick. And that's a problem. If you can't aim, you can't shoot, and that means you're at a disadvantage. So what we want to do is we want to switch from default just to Puppeteer. And all Puppeteer does is it makes it so that instead of right click being player highlight, right click is crouch and B is player highlight. It makes it a lot easier to slide shotgun. It makes it a lot easier to shade step. It makes it a lot easier in general just to use anything that you would normally have having to hit B or the PlayStation equivalent for. And you can still aim while you do it all. Now, if Puppeteer isn't enough for you, you can also switch to Jumper. You can see that Jumper makes it to where right click is melee, left button is jump, and LB and RB are player highlight. But it actually is a lot more complicated than switching to Puppeteer, and I don't really recommend it unless you are very insistent on playing an airborne type game, like you want to play with hand cannons or sidearms and be jumping all the time. Jumper is a much more difficult change to make. It might take you a couple of weeks, whereas Puppeteer will probably only take you a couple of games. Next up, I want to talk about playing the meta. The meta is basically the weapons that are currently very popular in the Crucible, and they're popular because they're the best mix of ease of use and lethality. And the reason I'm telling you to play the meta is because meta guns are going to be good at the lowest levels and they're going to be good at the highest levels. You may really want to use your God-rolled Hung Jury in the Crucible, and there's definitely something to be said for playing with a gun that you're comfortable with, but weapons like that can only take you so far. The problem is, when you do get to higher levels of gameplay, you'll find yourself landing all of your shots, playing perfectly, but still losing battles, and it's because the gun itself is letting you down. Something like Mida can kill in 4 shots just like the Hung Jury can, but the Mida can do it faster. So if a perfect Mida player and a perfect Hung Jury player go up against each other, the perfect Mida player is going to win. So what you need to do is you need to find a gun within the meta, you need to learn how to kill optimally with it, and by that I mean, does it take all headshots? Can I hit a couple body shots and still get the fastest TTK? For instance, the Mida can get 3 headshots and a body shot, and then you need to practice playing with that gun. Stick to it, practice, get comfortable, use the weapon. If it's a meta gun, you can probably take it all the way from just beginning to play the game up to the very, very highest levels in Trials of Osiris and still be able to play with just that gun. You'll be able to get comfortable with it, you'll be able to understand it, and the good news is that at this point in time, the Crucible is actually relatively balanced, at least as far as primary classes go, so you can basically pick whatever class you want and you'll be good to go with a gun. Now, I'm not saying you can just pick any archetype of auto rifle or any archetype of pulse rifle or something like that, but there are certain archetypes in each class that you can use and succeed with. Right now, the low impact auto rifles are pretty popular. Low and very low impact pulse rifles are popular. Mid impact hand cannons and the Mida archetype of scout rifles are popular. And shotguns are really, really popular in terms of special weapons. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of those that you can pick up just from the vendors. Not even anything complicated, that you can grab just from the vendors today as we speak. Go into the Crucible and probably have a good time with them. The first one is the Assembly 2. It's actually the auto rifle from the new Monarchy vendor, and you can see that it's one of the low impact high rate of fire archetypes. It comes with quick draw, perfect balance, and counterbalance, which are fantastic perks for this type of gun. It also comes with steady hand, which is a stability increasing perk. You can use that if you'd like. This is actually a really, really good gun right out of the bat. You can pick it up and you can be competitive at close range your very first game into the Crucible. As far as pulse rifles go, you can actually go to the Crucible Quartermaster and find the B29 Party Favor. This is basically a little brother or a poor man's clone of the Hawksaw from the Taken King vendors. It's not quite as good. The vendor version doesn't have the best roll, small bore, rifle barreled, glass half full, rodeo or partial refund. It doesn't have great sights. It's not the best gun from the vendor, but if you can get one to drop from a vendor package, it's still a very, very powerful weapon in the Crucible. It's got a fast time to kill. It's very easy to use. Also from the Crucible Quartermaster, we can get probably one of the most powerful vendor guns in the game right now. It is the Palindrome. It's a mid-impact hand cannon. You can kill in one headshot and 2 body shots. Comes with an aim assist, increasing sight, rifled barrel, and rangefinder. That is very nearly the god roll. So if you're looking for a hand cannon, that would definitely be the one you're going to want to pick up. Another pulse rifle in the archetype that's very, very popular is the Waltz from the Future War Cult. This is actually a very good gun. It's the same thing as the Grasp of Malik archetype, which up until the recent patch, there weren't very many of them in game. The one from the vendor comes with a pretty good roll, steady hand, lightweight, perfect balance, rangefinder. It's not necessarily the best. You can also use armor-piercing rounds if you want range. I would recommend probably trying to get one out of a package that has a little bit better roll than this, because this is a very, very good gun. It has, again, a very fast time to kill, incredibly high rate of fire. It's almost an auto rifle. It's almost full auto. So I definitely highly recommend the Waltz. And then I was talking about special weapons earlier as well, and the Dead Orbit vendor, Arak Jalal, I believe his name is, actually has one of the greatest shotguns in the game, the Last Ditch 001. So you can pick this one up. You can see it comes with rangefinder and hammer forged right off the bat, as well as quick draw, which is very useful on a shotgun. It doesn't necessarily have great barrel perks on it, which is unfortunate, but this is a gun that you can pick up and take into the Crucible and be competitive with right away. So as I was saying before, you want to play with some meta guns. Even if you don't have any meta guns currently, even if you're brand new to the game, you can go to these vendors and you can pick yourself up some weapons right away, and you can take them into the Crucible and just start slaying with them. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is your loadout. And what I mean by loadout is I mean your armor, your perks, your stats, all the things like that. So let's take a look at my armor real fast. You can see that I am a Night Stalker, and on my armor, for stats, I have 3 for intellect, I have 4 for discipline, and I have 4 for strength. This is what we call a tier 11 build. So I'm going to explain tiers real fast. Tiers are basically, you can see that it goes from 0 to 5 for intellect, for discipline, and for strength. When we say tier 12, tier 11, tier 10, we're just talking about the sum of these tiers that we have. Again, I have 3, 4, 4. That means this is a tier 11. Now, tier 12 is perfect as far as we know. It's the best you can get, but tier 12 is not really necessary for Crucible gameplay. If you have tier 10 or tier 11, you're definitely good to go. Most people like to try to make their stats complement their gameplay. For instance, as a Night Stalker, I like to wombo combo, which means throw a grenade and melee at the exact same time. So my discipline and my strength are very similar to each other. I have them both at 4, so I can get as many smoke grenades and normal grenades as I possibly can. I don't use my super that much, so my super is the lowest, down at level 3. Moving on to perks, you can see that every single perk that I have benefits my playstyle. It helps me in some way. Now, granted, the class item isn't really a big deal, but let's take a look starting at the helmet. So the helmet, you can see I have Graviton Forfeit, but that's an exotic perk, so we're just going to talk about the other two. Gain bonus super energy on grenade kills is in column 2, which is Ashes to Assets. Ashes to Assets is definitely a perk you're going to want for your PvP helmet, because other things like heavy lifting, they're all from Minions of the Darkness. They don't do anything to you in PvP. The only other perk you would possibly want in this column is Angel of Mercy, but that only helps you in revive-enabled playlists. So if you're not playing in a revive-enabled playlist, you definitely want Ashes to Assets. Over here, we have Infusion, which is replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Light. Your Orb of Light perk can basically be whatever you want it to. There's one that replenishes health, one that recharges shields, one that gives you grenade energy, and one that gives you melee energy. You can pick whichever one you want. This is a luxury right here. This is the perk that we're looking for. Moving on to the gauntlets. You can see that in my gauntlets, I have a sniper rifle loader, and that's because I use a sniper rifle. Now, if you are going to pick a pair of gauntlets based specifically on your loader, you need to think about which gun you use the most. Is it a hand cannon? Is it a pulse rifle, scout rifle, sniper rifle, shotgun? You need to go with whatever the loader is for your favorite gun, because that is something that will help you all the time. Having a faster reload is always a good thing. Over here, I have Switchblade, which decreases the melee attack cooldown time, which means I can melee one right after another faster than if I didn't have this. There's also Momentum Transfer, bonus melee energy on grenade hits. These 2 slots are your luxury slots here. What you want to look for primarily is a fast weapon loader for whatever your gun is, but then right here, you can either get faster melee cooldown, you can get throw grenades farther, things like that. This is a luxury slot. Now down here, we come to the chest piece. The chest piece is very important. For the chest piece, you're definitely going to want to look for something that gives you increased armor for whatever your subclass is. That 1 armor can do a lot for you. It can mean the difference between living and dying in the Crucible. So this is the primary thing that we want right here. Over here, usually I go with some special ammo increase perk, in this case sniper rifles, but there are some times when inventory doesn't change because your sniper rifle's inventory is either so low or so high that getting an inventory perk isn't going to change it, in which case I would base stats and armor as the two primary things that I want, and whatever perk this is would just be a luxury. For instance, maybe you pick up 4 sniper rifle rounds per brick with or without a sniper rifle ammo perk. Well, then you might as well just go for armor and stats up here and not worry about these two. Moving on to boots. For boots, I like to prioritize getting more ammo for my heavy weapon. You can see that I have rocket launcher ammo right here, and I have truth over here. If I did not have rocket launcher ammo on my boots, I would only get 2 rounds per heavy ammo box on truth, but because I have rocket launcher ammo, I get 3. For example, my Ruin Wake, which is an old machine gun from the Crucible Quartermaster, it would only get 33 rounds without machine gun boots, but with machine gun boots, it got 38 rounds. However, say you're using something like a sword or like Sleeper Simulant, and you don't really need the heavy ammo perk on the boots. Well, in that case, again, we're going to focus on the stats. What stats do we want? You can see I have discipline and strength. You'll also get an agility perk in the last column. The agility perk is just a luxury. If it matches up with your playstyle, good. If it doesn't, no worries. We don't need to mess with that. For the artifact, we want to make sure that we have an artifact that benefits us in PvP. What that means is not one of the artifacts that gives you an orb on melee kills on Fallen, or gives you an orb on grenade kills that are arc or something like that. Those things aren't going to help because those only activate in PvE. So for PvP, you can see that I've got remove sprint cooldown penalty. There's also about 7 other artifacts that you can use that all come from the Iron Lord's artifact set. And if you use any of those, I think Jolder is the one I have, which decreases the sprint cooldown. Gellion gives you detailed radar and grants third eye. Fellwinter, you lose your super but gain boosted strength and discipline, as well as an extra grenade and melee. Silmar, it's decreased burn and damage over time. Scory, when your super's full, allies near you get a double super charge rate. Radagast, the sword block is capable of reflecting energy and projectile attacks. That one you would obviously only use if you had a sword. And Perun highlights enemy guardians with full supers or low health. You can use whichever one of those that you want. Just make sure your artifact is benefiting PvP. And then once you've got all of your perks set up, try to figure out your stats. Try to see what the best stat allocations are you can have. There's apps like Destiny Item Manager that can do it for you. They can help you out. But try to get at least tier 10 in the way that you'd like, and tier 11 if possible. If you have tier 12, well, congratulations, you did it perfectly. But tier 10 is what we really need. Tier 11 is like the icing on the cake. Now, the very last thing I want to talk about is get into a party. It's way more fun playing with friends, and not only that, but you'll have more success. Games like Destiny, playing with a group is definitely the difference between victory and sometimes rage quitting. And I know this is a hard thing to do for a lot of people because not everyone has friends that are on when they're on. But the truth of the matter is you'll just have a better time playing with a fire team. If you don't have friends out there, there are a ton of great resources that you can use to help find people to play with, including Reddit/fire teams, Crucible Sherpa, the 100.io, Bungie.net recruitment forums actually aren't as bad as you'd think. And then there's a bunch of LFG websites out there too. If you don't want to put in that effort, then at least consider joining the game chat when you finally do get into a game. Even casual Destiny relies really heavily on communication, timing, and teamwork, so if you're playing with other people who you can talk to and coordinate with, it makes everything run so much more smoothly. Plus, talking to other people in game is a great way to start learning callouts and how to communicate mid-battle, 2 skills which are definitely necessities at higher levels of play. So those are 4 things I definitely like anyone who's considering jumping into PvP to look at before they even select a game type. I'll basically be starting a new character for myself soon, and as I write the guides, I'll be going through the same steps as I write them, and I'll make videos about them to share with you guys. If anyone would like to follow along with me or would like to join me, go ahead and send me a friend request. My gamer tag is Mercules904 on Xbox, and I'm always happy to run Crucible and play and try to teach you or help you as much as I can. So I really hope you guys have liked this video, and remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. Thanks.